necessarily feel like punching down, given the fact that these two teams are only one match apart. Here is Champion Select, though, and the Kalista already banned away, as well as the Vi. Pretty regular one there, as there goes the Azir. Taliyah first pick, certainly on the cards, but Xin Zhao needs to be banned as well. These are the two that should be permanently banned. We did see Ona play it yesterday, but I think that that was just an egregious bro mistake.
Yeah, they do match the Xin Zhao ban with the Pantheon. Two, I'd say, the highest prio junglers at the moment. I think I like the Azir ban, especially as a comfort pick for Vikla, and again, he's looked a little bit hit or miss on some of the champions, so denying that from him. No top laners banned yet. So still Gwen available, Jace available, Rumble available. They do ban away that Gwen. We'll see if they look to prioritize an early... I mean, it could be something like a Neferi first pick with the 3 jungle bans so far. You could go towards... I also laner instead, but I guess they're just happy trading those.
I feel like Rumble is very high priority at the moment. That's sort of how it feels to me. Yeah. Theory for Lucid certainly feels like a good choice. He had a great game on it last time around. In fact, it was their most recent game. But still, this is leaving so much on the table. You can lock like Rumble Taliyah if you'd like to, which is a whole lot of power. Clear obviously going to pick up the Rumble. He's been fantastic on it so far this year. And yeah, Rumble Taliyah, it's just, let's go to the top of the tier list. The Taliyah is a bit of a problem though, because Ryze, decent matchup into the Taliyah, and Showmaker and Vikla both really love the champion. So I was wondering whether there was going to be a little bit of a trade back and forth as far as that is concerned. Rumble definitely a big one though.
It does also make it a little bit telegraphed because you have AP mid and top lane, 380 junglers, the highest prior ones already banned. I feel like you're kind of leaning in, I'm one picked away as well with the Neferi, so I feel like it's probably going to be like a Wukong coming out from the side of BNK VRX if I had to guess based on what we've seen so far. But you definitely want a bit of AD coming from that jungle. Ahri going to come through. We've seen the Ahri Taliyah matchup very often. Times. Very often.
I don't know whether it's necessary. Is it a winning matchup for the Ahri though, is what it feels like? Like, we see it picked so many times, but I don't know whether it actually has a winning matchup so far in the LCK.
Yeah, I don't think it's clear cut, but I think you're happy to play the matchup because you can kind of skirt around the Unraveled Ear.
Yeah. We've mentioned it before. I just like how correct actually is it? Is what I'm kind of wondering.
I don't think it's as clear cut. Something that isn't clear cut is the strength of Ambessa, because 25.7 win percentage. I feel like this is very unique to Shiwu that he's willing to pick this up into the Rumble. A lot of players probably would have just gone for the Jace. And to no real surprise, we'll see the Wukong come through. Definitely the highest prio AD jungler that was left available, but does pair pretty well with the Rumble in particular with that ultimate power.
Yeah, this feels like a very powerful topside for BNK VRX, and you can see there are no AD carries outside of the Kalista that have been banned away so far, so getting your hands on something with a bit of utility to help out the heavy amount of damage they already have is going to be pretty comfortable here, unless Diablo wants to play something a little more hyper carry, which we kind of know him for so far in the LCK.
So denying the MF, which is one of the signature picks, I'd say, at the moment of aiming. D+, going for the Rakan ban, which is fair enough. I think they'd probably ban Alistar on 5. We've seen that so often now, is the blue side ban Alistar in the second rotation. I'm wondering if they look to ban something like, I would have said the Xayah, but they just banned Rakan themselves. The Ezreal, I think, could be a good ban. You know, if you're playing Wukong Rumble, I think that safety, the Arcane Shift, and it is a pick that aiming definitely has a lot of experience on, so I think that could be a good ban. They ban the Alistar.
That's kind of crazy.
I do not...
Kellen probably just wants counterpick.
I don't agree with that, though. I really don't agree with that. Like, I understand want a counterpick, but we've seen... I mean, it's one of Kellen's best champions. You have the opportunity to take it on 4. I'm not sure there's anything Beryl can really do to make it that uncomfortable to play into. And you're just giving a free ban to D+. They had to ban Alistar, I feel, in this second rotation. And now they've just got the freedom to go, hey, we'll get rid of the Poppy. Poppy Taliyah would have been a super strong combo.
Yeah, it's actually pretty handy that the Poppy is going to be banned away. Diablo going to pick away the Ezreal. Of course, aiming has been very vocal about the fact that it is one of his favorite champions.
I think the pick away makes sense, given that they have banned the Alistar, which, you know, obviously I didn't agree with, but given that they have banned it, I think picking away the Ezreal instead does make sense. Does give a good amount of safety, hard to land, you know, like the public execution from the Ambessa or even charms onto this Ezreal, a lot of safety there. And we'll see what aiming goes for. You know, immediately look at this composition from BNK VRX, I'd want safety. The Xayah Rakan is not an option, but I feel like you could lean into the Xayah regardless. You could also play like the Varus is open and just play at a distance, play at a range. We've seen Varus do pretty well.
Yep, Varus or Jhin kind of fit that role.
Lucian does have that bit of mobility, but is shorter range. playing into like a Talia, Wukong Rumble. It's not unplayable, definitely playable, just, you know, a bit of a taller ask, I would say.
And it all depends on what Beryl's going to be playing as well.
I don't want to see a Nami pick up. The Lucian Nami just doesn't inspire as much joy as it used to.
And what we saw yesterday, I would just prefer to forget. That involved the Lucian Nami, so hopefully it's going to be something else. The Braum is the consideration at the moment here for Beryl. We've seen Braum have so much success, but now picking it face up, there is the possibility that Kellen just karmas it, you know?
Yeah, I think karma would be pretty good here. You have the Wukong you can speed up. You have ways to sort of fight without necessarily having engaged support. Gives you really strong laning phase, kind of makes the Braum difficult. And also, the engage options from D+ aren't that fantastic with that Braum support, so you can just kind of speed away from a lot of the threats.
And you have a lot of range anyway, because DK don't have any range themselves. Even the Equalizer can work as like pseudo-engage or even poke for this particular team. Just because otherwise it's Showmaker fishing for charms. You know, it's the culling from aiming, but outside of that, not really too much else to get anything going here on the side of D+. So the Nico going to be locked in, sort of a middle ground, not necessarily full Enchanter, but not quite, you know, the Karma as well. So it's going to give you a fair bit of power.
It's been super popular right now because it has that ranged harass and lane that can punish something like a Braum, but it still provides that engage option that you want later on. I think, you know, it makes sense considering how BNK FearX like to play. They do want Kellen on something that can provide that engage rather than the Karma, which is that more utility protective pick. But overall, I mean, I think BNK FearX come out pretty happy with how the draft has panned out. I think for D+, some of it is leaning a bit more into comfort, like the Ambessa, but I think for a different team than D+, I'd feel a lot worse about this draft.
Yep.
I think it's still playable for them, but I think, you know, maybe some difficulties they might have as the game goes on.
Yeah, and I feel like every time I see Neferi first pick, a Nexus explodes on that side of the rift. Is kind of how it works. It's not been a very successful, just blind, straight out of the gate option, and a lot of our teams still feel like Neferi is that powerful. It is going to be the hot dog skin, so that's certainly a lot of fun, but I'm not sure whether this is necessarily a winning look for DK, as BNK FearX wanting to try and get back on the horse, move closer and closer to the western side of the standings. Let's get into it. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the rift for the first game of our first series, DK versus BNK. We feel like BNK have a decent looking draft, but honestly, there's quite a few teams here in the LCK where draft barely matters.
Yeah.
And DK is certainly one of those teams. It's them and KT leading the charge when it comes to not being able to predict what the heck's going to go on. And if we learned anything earlier on this week with the Nongshim versus BNK series, another team that we just can't really predict.
It's getting tricky, you know, these predictions.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to figure out where teams sort of lie. Current form is such a fluid thing. Indeed. I feel like that will change even
mid-series.
Mid-series, mid-game, you know? It feels like... yeah, I think in this one, should expect to have priority in this bot lane with the Ezreal and Nico. There is like windows where if the Nico overextends, you land the concussive blows, you can punish. So Diablo and Kellen need to be on good form here. Yep. But overall, I think in terms of early prio, BNK FearX pretty happy in all three lanes. And considering how much I feel like D+ has relied on Lucid when he's had his good performances, might be a hard one for him really to have that impact.
Yeah, right now you can see Diablo and Kellen utilizing that range advantage that we knew they had pretty effectively. But it looks like aiming's not going to miss out on too much. Ardent Blaze first does certainly help you farm from range a little bit more comfortably. As we can see here, it's aiming's first game on the Lucian, which is kind of nutty. The third for Beryl, though, whose Braum has not really been hitting the mark so far this season.
Yeah. I do remember, though, aiming had some fantastic, I think, was it last year or the year before, but had some fantastic
it was the year before
games.
Last.
Yeah, in playoffs in particular. It's having a lot of impact. 6 wins in a row on the current patch.
And almost all of them. I think this is why we were getting that vibe, that perhaps the RE isn't the answer, because most of the time, the RE is the response into the Talia.
Well, there was sometimes it was the Azir was picked and then the Talia answered.
That's true. That would also be good.
That did not go well for the Azir.
Indeed.
But I think what's telling is sometimes we see those, this is how much of a win or loss streak a champion is on. And sometimes it's like, well, you look at the teams, it's like, well, you know, if it's just weak teams who are on the low end of the standings, like how seriously can you take it, and vice versa. If it's just the strong teams, you can definitely, there's still value to it. You're like, well, you know, the strong teams are prioritizing it. But when you look at the teams who had those wins, there were some weaker end teams who were getting on part of that win streak with the Talia. So I think just showing the value this pick has had, especially considering pairs very well with these AD junglers who have setup like the Zinzao, like the Pantheon. Obviously don't have that here, but Wukong Talia, still a good amount of setup after 6 if you get that Cyclone off to follow up with the Seismic Shove.
That was pretty cute there. You just saw aiming able to use the double tap, the light slinger, in order to take down the ward, so didn't even need to sweep it. Bit of value there. You like seeing a little bit of extra value.
He is the Gold King. He does love value.
Indeed. As Pop Blossom, sorry, not Pop Blossom, the Blooming Burst not going to quite find any kills, but does frustratingly stop the back. Is Beryl going to have to stick around here? Diablo and Kellen just going to continue to shove in. And as you can see, 200 gold is the approximate lead, just for some better laning on the side of BNK, and that actually stems towards the top side of the map as well. Shu not exactly having the greatest time, but that wave seems to be shoving towards him, so maybe he is just going to be able to equalize it. Nice little shove back there onto Showmaker as Vikla demonstrating that this Talia is having a pretty good time in this lane. And Shu now, as we mentioned, is actually just going to be able to tidy this up. So it looks like it's only going to be 3 CS in it as far as these top laners. That's not really too much to scoff at all.
Yeah, I think top and bot both handling things pretty okay, considering the disadvantageous matchup. Aiming even went for that early reset just so he could pick up the double longsword. Get back to lane, hasn't missed out on too much. Difficult to find a window like that when you don't have prio, but it also means that now Beryl can get his reset in. He was pretty low on health and had no health potions left, so I think they're managing pretty okay so far.
Yeah, not doing too bad. Dragon going to be coming up pretty soon, 3 minutes until the grubs. And it's going to be a Chemtech, so no Chemtech Soul, you're off the hook here, Orcs, to start us off.
I'm always most focused at the start of the day.
Yeah, that's true. It does teeter off towards the end.
Yeah.
See how that goes. As Vikla not going to be able to find that shove, but still able to push this wave in very comfortably. Raptor moving on over towards this dragon, and with control vision being solely there for BNK Fearex, looks like this is going to be something that he's going to be able to take unhindered, especially with the information that Lucid is towards the top side. Ward does go down, so at least information is going to be there.
Oh, Showmaker's just hit 6.
Yeah, and is actually going to land the charm there as well. So Vikla going to get electrocuted. I don't know whether the doggo going to quite get in here in time. Down to 21 health, but of course, no one there to contest. As now Raptor does get daggered momentarily. There's the flash over from Beryl. Doesn't quite find the Q flash though.
I thought Raptor might have to flash there initially. He decided to go for the W instead, which is a little bit shorter. So you saw how he couldn't just flash straight over the wall. Had to like move a little bit closer to Lucid first. But you're more than happy with that, right? The heal is committed from Kellen just to ensure safety, but getting Beryl's flash, getting the dragon, and wasting the time of D+. You know, I think some teams might have just seen that situation and gone, you know what? We're not going to be able to contest in time. They have prior bot lane. Let's just leave. But I think the level 6 of Showmaker really inspired them to look for that play, and then they didn't find anything from it. So good early start for BNK Fearex.
Yep, able to play to their tempo pretty nicely in this early stage. Teleport in from clear towards that top side, as we can see. Kind of giving away the location of that ward a little bit as he comes out of the brush. Shu, though, pretty comfortably just farming things up. He's got a core fields of his own. And Clear going a little defensively in the boot choices. Somewhere Huni is upset. But he hasn't spoken to me about, you know, Rumble Tech more recently. So maybe, you know, this is something he's spoken to Clear about. Maybe the Sork shoes aren't the way anymore, Orcs. No, that's not true.
I can't believe you'd say that.
Yeah, it's actually weird. It feels strange coming out of my mouth, I'm not going to lie.
Huni he's a simple man. He just wants damage, you know?
Yep. Do steel caps do more damage? No.
Nope.
They do not. So it's not the right choice. As Diablo and Kellen probably just going to go back. Looks like this wave is going to be shoved in. Possibly a little bit of a relocation towards the top side of the map, as there are 35 seconds until those Void Grubs will spawn.
And I think overall, D+ pretty happy with how things have played out. You know, bot lane, top lane, both very stable, all things considered. These are lanes that I think you could see a lot more pressure applied than we've got, and I think it was mostly D+ just navigating it well defensively. Top is going to come in, but you can see on the minimap, D+'s bot lane isn't too far behind.
Yep.
So it should be a match on the top side for these grubs. And ultimately, expect if there's a contest to come out, it will be pretty explosive, right? You have things like the Equalizer, the Cyclone, a lot of immediate power from BNK FearX, but if you start to get kills, you get the reset potential for both Lucid and Showmaker's ult. So that initial part of the fight is going to be really important here.
Yep. Clear has found Shiu as well. He's looking to try and push this Rumble away. Equalizer in range of anyone right now. As the Winter's Bite is going to connect. There is the culling onto Kellen. He's taking a fair bit of damage. The flash does come through as Clear finally throws down that Equalizer. Not exactly doing too much, splitting up the fight here, but DK just biding their time. Shape Splitter comes on through as now Showmaker looking for that engage angle. Finds the charm as there's the public execution. Shiu, though, getting a bit of a shield back, but still in trouble. He's going to have to flash away. And now it's Lucid that's going to have to try and get out of here. He flashes, uses absolutely everything. And Beryl, I don't think he's going to quite be able to hold the door enough as there is First Blood going over to the Rumble.
And a lot of patience from BNK FearX. You know, D+ trying to find that initial kill, not able to connect on the right targets. The resets don't come through. And in the end, the flashless Beryl is the one left as a sacrifice for BNK FearX. It's only one kill, but the 3 grubs in pocket, they're more than happy.
Yeah, this is the thing. DK were fighting over a lost battle and not actually able to get anything in response. So that's going to be gold advantage over to BNK. We're going to check it out one more time.
So there's pressure put down on a Kellen with a Cullen. And then there's this follow-up, and it's a great flash from Kellen to avoid the charm. If that connects, it could be a completely different story. The Equalizer and the Unraveled Earth forces them back, chunks them out, and then they're waiting patiently. They look again here. Diablo manages to shift away. Clear is connected onto, but the follow-up isn't quite there. You know, they're scared of the Wukong with the ult. Raptor gets a good amount of value here. And then it's just a bunch of Summoner's Burn to disengage from the situation, but Beryl doesn't have one left available. And you kind of see, you know, that talking point of the momentum where getting that initial kill on a Kellen who's already low, I think that fight plays out completely differently.
Yeah, I would agree. But as it stands, BNK in a very good position. 800 gold in the lead.
And now actually, so if you look at the Summoners, the only flash burn was Kellen's. So many Summoners burn on the side of D+, their entire top side. Dragon's up in 30 seconds. Kellen is level 6 with that Pop Blossom available. You really do not want to give away the first 3 objectives of the game. D+ might struggle to find an opportunity to fight this. It's up in 20 seconds. You can see Lucid is recalling now.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that they also have the 3 grubs, right? So BNK, if they can put on some extra pressure into these side lanes, they can threaten feats of strength pretty comfortably. That first turret blood, bit of extra money as well. This snowball is going to start a rolling. Yeah, if they can keep this up. Of course, they need to keep it up.
I think often as well, we've seen like Aries, maybe with like being able to pick up like the Malignance early in the early fights and get so much value with that, the flat magic resist, shred, and also the burn. But because that first dragon was so early, Showmaker not getting an influx of gold from kills or anything, he doesn't have the Malignance. No one has a 1-item spike yet. And I think that's actually pretty good for BNK FearX. You know, typically Talia not getting much value out of that first item because you are going for the Archangels, takes time to stack up. So I think this is really prime opportunity for BNK FearX, and we'll see Lucid no flash, but is hovering around like he wants to try and, at minimum, steal away this dragon.
Yeah, he's going to get spotted here by Kellen. Throws out some good old daggers. You can see the vision here is decent for DK. Same can be said for BNK, but Showmaker with that Spirit Rush at the ready. Beryl loping his way over. That is a charm going to miss, but still a lot of damage onto Raptor. Back towards the dragon now as Lucid. Don't think he's getting in there, and he isn't going to be able to lock that one down. Hextech Soul this game is kind of nutty. It's a lot of extra power as now Diablo, bit of a late arcane shift, would have been able to buffer with it, but not going to get hit by the charm anyway. So DK, not really, it's not feeling that great, right? It feels like they're behind a lot of these plays and are half-hearted in their attempts to try and salvage them even when it starts happening, right?
I mean, it's been great setup from BNK FearX. They've been rewarded, but also when the first dragons are Chemtech, Ocean, you expect a good soul, right?
Yeah,
You're pretty much guaranteed a good soul. Obviously, Hextech is one of the better rewards, but they've just played this early game out so well. And I think a big thing on top of this is Beryl and the Braum. You know, you said he's been having struggles. I don't think it's because Beryl can't play Braum. I think it's because this D+ lineup has been doing best when Beryl is often leading the charge. I mean, sometimes it is to their demise, but...
Yeah, at least he's doing stuff.
Yeah, and I think here we've seen a lot of watching and waiting from D+. It's been Showmaker trying to lead the charge with the charms, but a lot of hard targets to connect with. You know, Wukong, Nico, Ezreal, none of these are easy to connect that CC onto, all having a way to kind of avoid it. And it's only 1,000 gold lead. Those early objectives really pushing things in favor of BNK FavorX. We do see the first items come out for the mid laners, though. Malignant Spike for the Ahri is big. We'll see if, when the Herald comes up, they're able to maybe get a little bit of value out of that.
Yeah, there's also the Eclipse done here for Shiv, so if they're able to fight before Clear goes back and completes his Leandru, which I assume he's sitting on, as he hasn't been back for a while, 600 gold in the lead over his counterpart, so that should be there.
Yeah, I think he'll probably be able to have that. I think this is a window where... Oh, Shivu?
Well, that's a cute little ward. Not sure why it's there, but he's going to put it down. Now going to have to dance out of these rocks. Kellen moving on in. There's a Pop Blossom. And Shiu just going to dash out of the way of it. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. Utilizing the ult, but not really going to be able to find anything for that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the ult, it looks like, well, you can't dash if there's no target, but you get a brief CC immunity when you cast it. So using that to try and avoid the ult. And then it also gives you a passive to get a dash. So even though it's not like a Yone ult where you can just ult into the void and get away. Still has function for you to escape, and she was playing that one well, especially since TP was actually committed there as well. This wasn't just a half-hearted effort. This was a full commit from BNK FavorX. They didn't find it, and it gives a little bit of alone time in the top lane to Showmaker.
Yep, so he's able to get a bit of damage down there. Of course, would have liked a grub or two to help him out, but not going to be working out here. Is aiming at 50%, but they're just looking to kill Diablo. Let's see whether they can take him down. Yeah, he's dead. That's aiming, locking down that kill. The Gold King going to pick that one up. That's going to even things out kills-wise. Might help DK get back on the horse.
So this is an example where playing towards, you know, a pocket of vision, an area where you think you're safe, really backfires. Because Diablo, it looked from our perspective so questionable that he was leaning towards where everyone was in that brush. But Kellen was there. Kellen had a control ward down. And I think that gave him a false sense of security. You know, didn't have the full scope of vision you really need to be safe. And also playing Ezreal, you're in the mindset that you're probably safe in a lot of situations. And both summoners been on this Ezreal a pretty big boon for D+. With the Herald up, I think they can play for this.
Yep, they're going for it. You can see Lucid already starting this one up. Raptor trying to get in there and stop the rest of the team from backing up this Nefiri. Beryl shows them the door, gets the heal out, and True Shot Barrage going to finish him off. Really nice aim there from Diablo, as BNK realizing with the man advantage, they should be able to take this, and it's so sad here for Lucid. Still he's able to lock it down, but that eye is just going to look around for a while and disappear. So no Shelly this game. So sad.
Yeah, unfortunate one there for D+. You know, the smite's good from Lucid, but they lose the blue buff for it. They're losing control. Maybe even threat of a... This is a hard dive to pull off. Yeah, the waves just got deleted. Oh, they're still going.
Yep, there's the Pop Blossom to come in, but it's going to hit absolutely no one. Kellen goes down first there as the second kill comes in for DK. And, yeah.
Without the wave, extremely hard, but specifically into an Ahri Nefiri.
Yeah, hitting like Nefiri Ahri with a Pop Blossom when they're very aware of what's happening is a tall order.
Yeah. In fairness, you know, and this isn't cope, they did get the flash from Showmaker, and I don't think it's that big of a deal that Kellen dies in this situation. But yeah, definitely an ambitious play that does end up backfiring. But you know, I don't think the cost is too high in this situation. And I always feel like in these neutral states where there's no objective on the cards, you're kind of looking, what can we get out of this? You know, right? Showmaker has no ult right now, no flash, and Dragon is coming up.
DK thinking that maybe Clear is going to be their option, as Flash does have to come out from the Rumble.
Good pick up there.
Yeah, avoids the concussive blows. Like you were talking about, the Dragon has just come up. The first Hex Tech Drake, a big thing to fight for, especially if you're BNK. Wanting to take away the Soul Point. Be very, very powerful. Lucid flying in there. But he's going to get caught by the Tangle Barbs. Beryl following after Raptor here.
You can see the determination from D+ to get control of this area.
Yeah.
To ensure that they're the ones who can get this Dragon. Showmaker's ult is back up and available. Kellen's closing in. Do you get a recall coming out from Vikla? They have lost control of the area, but I have no doubt they'll look to try and push in again and regain control here. D+ unwilling to start the Dragon.
They're trying to. Kellen, Shape Splitter is going to absorb a lot of the culling here as aiming doesn't find a lot of value. And Shiu towards that top side, if he's facing off against Vikla, is a pretty comfortable way of interrupting, as that is an ulti forward here from Showmaker, and Clear, remember, doesn't have the flash, and so he's going to be taken down. Lucid now able to flash away, but the flash to follow there from Kellen is so good. Still, it's not enough. Lucid just dashes away, and down goes the Wukong. Shield comes in from Lucid, and he's over the wall yet again. It's a decent seismic shove there, but Vikla is going to get stunned up by Beryl, and that's just a fake Nico, because Lucid just comes back in, gets back into it, and dies. It's not exactly great. Seismic Shove almost gets a double there for Vikla, but in the end, TK do find the victory. But BNK FearX, they actually managed to get the feats of strength, which is a big deal.
Yeah, this is, you know, on paper, favored towards D+ in terms of you got those 3 kills. Great setup coming out from Showmaker, punishing the lack of flash on Clear, and Lucid gets a big influx of gold. But Lucid dying last does have consequences when the Dragon's up. We'll see this. Great setup from Showmaker here. Clear ends up overheating before he can use the equalizer. I think it was the wrong call. I think just throw the equalizer down initially. And then the value Beryl gets, holding the door here, getting the passive procs, keeping Lucid alive. Unfortunately, does end up going down here. I think maybe the wrong decision to jump back over the wall in this situation.
Yeah. Quite need to do that.
Yeah, giving that one over. Vikla does end up going down. Beryl does survive. But looks like D+ were able to get back in time and get control of the Dragon, so that's big. Hard to say what was going to happen with Lucid's death being so late, but BNK FearX not opting into it. And D+, you know, the kills in favor of them, the fact they secured the Dragon in the back end, definitely good for them in this game.
Yeah, feels like it holds it a little bit more equal, rather than giving them a big advantage, especially with this tower falling down towards the top side of the map shrinking here for DK. And the more control you have of that, the better things are going to be for BNK moving towards the next Dragons that are going to be coming up. So could be a tall order to lock down the second Hextech Dragon, but this first one, the fact that they get it, very, very important. Would have been far more dire if that had have gone over to BNK.
Yep. I think the thing is, it puts the game in a position where now Arakan and Baron are relevant before Soul is, which is, you know, if you're the team who only has...
Oh dear. Kellen going to get stunned up. There is the ulti from Beryl just to make sure of it. Down he will go. Diablo going to get attacked here by Lucid once more. The ulti flies forward, but still not going to be able to find too much.
And D+ just doing a fantastic job multiple times, playing around pockets of vision, finding these picks onto BNK FearX. You know, we've seen it work in that bot side play where Lucid got all those kills. We've seen Diablo be punished before. We see Kellen punished there. This game that was firmly in BNK FearX's favor in the early game, starting to fall away from them in the mid game here.
Yeah. Let's see. This is all about BNK tidying it up, right? That's what we want to see. After, you know, their troubled performance against Nongshim, where it felt like at so many times they looked like the better team on the day, unfortunately weren't able to actually come out with the victory. I always have to check the standings, honestly, like, to see who actually won that series. Having watched it,
yeah,
you know how there's a lot of series where you're like, you remember back to watching it and you know the result, right? That's often how it is. Whereas that series, I think about the games and I'm like, who won in the end?
Yeah, there was no real winner. There was one team who got points on the board, but no one really won that series. Definitely a rough one, but right now, I mean, that's why this game feels a little bit frustrating for BNK FearX, because they did so much that was going so right, so effectively in the early game. And now they've kind of hit the point where it's getting a little bit messy. I will say, though, you look at some of the item spikes coming through, 2 items kind of across the board for everyone apart from Kellen. And these are some big spikes, right? The Triforce and the Manamune for Diablo, the Leandries for Vikla, really nice to pick up. And they're closing in on their Zhonyas. They are a little bit ahead of the curve right now based on items. I do think we're going to see D+ picking up some in return just to match that.
Yeah, we'll see what Showmaker can put together when he goes back. Looking for that Leandries, obviously, but if he can afford it or not, that's going to be a big deal. 2 minutes until the next Dragon, so I guess there's some time. Articon's up and available. Not something that either of these teams want to be fighting for right now, but still a jostling for position. Shu moving down towards his bottom side. And Clear, I think, will head down to match him. So really too much to report as far as this mid game is concerned. Outside of these turrets, taking a bit of damage. Shu going to come on over. Looks like the Rumble going to get here a little bit late. Unless he equalizes, there's a chance that Shu takes it down, but instead, just respects. As Clear moves over,
That's
we'll be able to clear this one out.
That's grub diff, you know. Maybe a grub or two for D+, that's how it would have gone down.
Yeah, I think I'm like seeing these towers be attacked and assuming grubs.
Yeah.
Should never assume the grubs. It's not the way to do it.
I think a lot of teams in the LCK have assumed grubs to the downfall at times.
Well, grubs are still a confusing thing, you know, new stuff. It's a tough one. As Diablo, not going to be too worried about Barrel here, as Lucid just bounding around in the river.
I mean, you think about how long it took teams to learn that they don't have to fight every Rift Herald. And, you know, some still haven't learned that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're telling me that they've learned?
Some teams.
Yes.
Some have.
I remember there was that time that T1 learned, and then I think they won back-to-back Worlds immediately afterwards.
It's that easy, you know?
It's kind of hilarious. The timing does actually line up for that to be true. Kind of ridiculous. It's okay. D+ still with 1,000 gold lead, but that might actually be changing here. As you can see, Lucid bounding around. Little does he know that this brush is occupied. Or at least it was. There it is. Raptor comes on over. Untargetability is pretty powerful here for Lucid, as he does Blast Cone Raptor away and keeps himself alive. And now Shiu is the one that's in the furnace. Still okay. Lucid uses absolutely everything in order to get out, but he will do so. And he's even got Hex Gates. That's the ridiculous thing about this Rift, is that the punishment isn't actually that high. Even with 10 seconds left on this Dragon, he should be able to get back here pretty quickly. Yep,
and the Cyclone now down is a big cost for BNK FearX. They did hold on to the Equalizer, though. We'll see if they can still get that same value without that tool in this fight.
Yeah.
Oh, look at Shiwu.
Yeah, looking for the flank angle. Let's see whether this public execution is going to come on through. The rocks go down. But now DK pretty happy with their positioning. Raptor gets into the pit. Shiu's still looking for that flank angle as he sweeps out onto Clear. Kellen just searching for a little bit of an angle. There's the culling to soften them up from aiming. Nicely done. Seismic Shove is good onto Lucid, but he goes on target for Pop Blossom's fantastic. The Drake gets taken down, but Kellen's also dead. Aiming is going nuts as he flashes on top of Vikla, and that is the Rumble going down, and now the kills are starting to fly in. The resets are working out as Diablo standing his ground. His health bar is so high. Shiu is going to try and punish him, but he gets the triple. Is it Penta time as the charm is going to connect? Orb Deception comes down, but over he goes, and there it is. Showmaker though, can he actually win out as Diablo? He's just waiting for an E. The jump comes through and he misses the Q. Doesn't push further forward.
Doesn't manage to find all 5, but man, this AD carry doing so much work for BNK FearX, clutching it on the Ezreal. A fight that looked like it was D+ is in the bag, turns around thanks to this rookie AD carry.
Oh my goodness, 5-1 on this Ezreal right now. Let's have a look at this fight once again, because it was played pretty well by DK, outside of maybe aiming, having that rush of blood to the head.
Yeah, so some good ults coming out from BNK FearX, but the follow-through starts to come in as the picks come through, the resets on a Showmaker. Raptor with no ult, not having as much value. This Unraveled Earth from Vikla getting great value, and then Diablo landing the Mystic Shot, so the red buff here burns even with the wall blocking. Managing to connect here on a Shiu where the flash comes through. This charm does catch him, but just like, yeah, I'm going over the wall.
Really good
to kill
as well.
Shiu, and then so close here to getting the Penta.
He really wanted to pick that one up, but doesn't actually push into the Fog of War, which would have definitely been his death. It's just a Foxfire, and he would have died there, so intelligent play, a little bit unfortunate that he doesn't manage to get the Penta. And the crazy thing is, they don't even get a gold lead off the back of that. It is Soul Point. That is absolutely huge with the Hextech Soul especially, and they have an Ezreal, right?
I mean, if you think about it, there's a very realistic scenario where D+ got the Dragon there, right? It was not that clean and controlled. And if Diablo doesn't clutch the fight, we could have been looking at a big gold deficit and 2 Dragons apiece. So BNK FearX, the smite from Raptor, and Diablo's play in that fight, and even moments like Vikla's Unraveled Earth coming through for the stuns, really keeping this game closer than it might have otherwise been. As you said, still gold lead for D+, but BNK FearX, they have some extra stats, but most, you know, they have like the feats of strength.
Yep.
But mostly it's just that threat off the Dragon Soul that is really keeping them heavily in this game.
Well, vision getting cleared out here as the top side of the map going to be definitely a big point of contention.
I just realized Showmaker has Medjai's. I don't think he had it in the previous fight, but that shutdown at the end would have had a lot more value. Just love tapping.
Yeah, he's
that it can.
Lucid's here and so's Showmaker, and Beryl, he is going to try and hold the door. Is Vikla going to get missed by the Winter's Bite? Wall comes up, but this is going down so quickly. Exactly. True Shot Barrage comes through. Aiming takes most of his health bar, but there is no jungler in sight. So that is just Otacon taken. It's highway robbery as Beryl, he might be sacrificed. Remember, there's no outer turret here. Looks like DK, the majority of them are just going to be able to get out. Flash is going to be employed there by Beryl, but I think you'll take that in trade as now Clear could be in trouble. Charm going to connect, and the culling will cut down the Rumble. Now Warrior Trickster has to be used by Raptor to get himself out of there as they're taking Hex Gates. They're looking to close in as now Diablo's in trouble. Pop Blossom to try and peel, but this time Aiming is actually playing with his brain attached, so he's able to take down the Ezreal. And DK looking for even more. The ulti's going to clip him, and Raptor walks back towards DK because Showmaker persuaded him to. And this is the DK that we've been waiting to see. They're going to look for a Baron as well, and they get to work on that while the last kill is going down.
Just a clutch call from D+ to start up the Atacant, finding a window where BNK FearX wasn't in position to contest. And this is one of those painful moments where BNK FearX are unwilling to cut loose, unwilling to say, hey, we didn't get the objective, let it go. Player getting caught out by a charm again here. And then Diablo, he could have just taken the Hex Gate. I actually think he had time to take it. Instead, gets jumped onto, tries to Arcane Shift away from the Hex Gate, as that just puts him in a weird spot. And everyone ends up falling there, apart from Vikla. It's one of these things I think we see some of the Eastern teams often make this mistake, where they get a loss on an objective and are unwilling just to say, hey, it's cool, you know? Yeah, we lost Atacant, so what? Is it really a game changer?
Yeah, it's not. And the thing is, I feel like they get into their heads that they're the team with the advantage. They're the team that's pushing forward, and that's exactly what they were doing. But what DK identified was that they've overextended, they've put themselves out, and that it's almost like the Predator mindset that they had, like we're attacking, is the thing that DK were able to turn against them. And now they have control of the river. DK looking to lock down this second Hextech Dragon for themselves. If there is a steal, BNK, they can get an incredibly powerful soul and a whole lot of power here, but they don't necessarily need to fight for this right now.
Yeah, it's gone.
As Xiu is looking for the flank angle. Beryl now wanting to find a way in as well, as Xiu staying in the fog of war where he can. Shape Splitter now on cooldown. Xiu still just corralling them and gets into the backline there as Pop Blossom lands onto the rest. They're going to try and turn onto Xiu as everyone dives towards Aiming, but he's able to dash his way out. Vikla's in trouble. Showmaker looking to put him down, and there are the kills streaming through. It was that quadra kill for Diablo, and then everything fell off a cliff. DK will be able to push further forward, and we'll see what more they can get.
Feels like in this fight, D+ knew the main threat, the main carry is this Ezreal. Didn't let him play the game. You saw she will connect with the public execution, and then immediately Lucid following up afterwards to take him down. And this game went from so hopeful for BNK FearX in the early game, a mid-game which was a bit messier, but still you saw an opportunity for them to win this with those dragons stacking up, and then D+ convincingly looked to put the nails in the coffin. They won't end the game right now, but with a 10,000 gold lead, a 25 stack Medjai's on Showmaker,
and a 7.6 thousand gold Red Bull Baron power play.
Pretty good.
That's like the entire lead happened from that one Baron.
This is another example where, you know, the dragon is gone, and they're still hanging around posturing for a fight. Diablo, the public execution connecting onto him, very rough for that to happen, but then Lucid just immediately follows through with the Neferi.
Yep. The surprise Teemo face there from Showmaker kind of says it all.
Yeah. It's just crazy how quickly this game has fallen apart for BNK FearX, with some great punishes from D+, but
I want to say as
feels
well,
like an issue in shot calling, if I'm honest.
Yep. And one of the great things here, if you're looking over the other side of the rift, is this gentleman right here. He's going to get shoved. It's the Caster Curse that was preemptive, unfortunately for me. But maybe it was a bait all along as the flash out. No equalizer going to get any joy onto Showmaker. As now the public execution into the backline. The seismic shot going to miss because he's got so many dashes. And Aiming with the culling is doing exactly that. Clear trying to do what he can, but it is not going to work as Lucid looks for the quadra. Is it going to be his turn for a pentakill? I guess it is as he dashes on top. We were denied one penta, but at least we got another as the doggo is looking real happy as he wags his tail all the way to the Nexus.
Lucid nearly leaping out of his chair on that one with how excited he was to get the penta. BNK FearX trying to make a pick on a Showmaker, ends up backfiring. And D+ slam that game to an end. Very happy with that one. You can see the good in his face.
Yep, no, it's a very happy Lucid right there. And maybe, just maybe, I should stop my doubt of the first pick Nefiri. Maybe if Lucid does it, it's going to be okay. That's 2 games in a row that he performs absolutely fantastically well. So looking forward to seeing more from Lucid, and maybe my opinion of the Doggo first pick is going to change.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing with dogs, especially some of those, you know, more like the bigger dogs. I think you have to be a good handler. You have to be able to train them properly. Not everyone can just own a dog like that and take care of it properly. And I think Lucid's shown that he can, right?
I remember going to the dog park with my dog, and he was not the smartest. Let's just say that he was back of the class. But Lucid was certainly one of those dogs that I was very envious of. Let's just say that in this particular game, where he plays extraordinarily well. I want to say Showmaker undying performance here at the same time. That's what I was trying to say before we were interrupted by the end of the game. Definitely a return to form for him. His Ahri has been pretty good this season thus far, and aiming also, even after that one flub, able to turn it all around, had a good performance, and I think as far as the teamwork was concerned, looking a little bit better on the side of DK.
Yeah, I think a bit of a heartbreaker for BNK VFX. This game was definitely winnable, and I think some regrets come out of this one, but they will undoubtedly be trying to bounce back for that game too.
Exactly right. This is a best of 3 for a reason, and they will have side selection moving into the next one, so we'll see how they'll go. Time for a break, then the space, and then we'll be back for game 2.
여기 이쪽 쌍둥이 나 살짝 물렸고 나 받았어 나 이점 볼게 궁 다 빠졌어 나 호흡돼 궁 다 없어 나 이점 갈래 이제 비전 럼블 궁 다 없어 얘네 이제 야 하나만 럼블 볼게 궁 다 없어요 야 나 펜타 할게 펜타 남겨놨어 야 펜타 진짜 주세요 펜타 주세요 펜타 나 이걸 먹네. 감사합니다 형들. 내가 한 대도 안 쳐놨다. 사랑합니다 형. 네. 만들었어. 감사합니다. 나이스. 아싸. 펜타킬 했다. 야.
And isn't he? Or fair weather fan.
Yes, you know what? I'm just gonna say it. I think if Diablo had gotten that penta,
yeah, we would have known whose picture on the phone.
It would have been a Diablo picture. Oh. Yeah, exactly, 100%. So
someone's really got to get to the bottom of this, because right now it's hearsay, but we're right. Okay, Vi is going to be banned away alongside the Sejuani, as the Nidalee is also going to face the ban hammer. And so let's see how this game number 2 is going to go, as DK often a very momentum-based team, right? We've spoken about it before, that if they lose a game 1, oftentimes game 2 becomes a whole lot more difficult, despite side selection changing, things like this. When they do get a win, though, in that game number 1, oftentimes they can either get overly excited or just excited enough to crush their opposition.
Yeah, it's very unclear, really, where they're going to be. I think that's what you were trying to...
Yeah, I sort of like there was a vibe there, and then I realized, hang on, wait a second, they've gone overboard in the past as well. But if this is a calculated amount of confidence, then they should be all right, as there is a lot of junglers getting banned.
Yeah, heavy bans towards Lucid in this situation. The Pantheon's still available, so did D+ just ban that away? Because it's kind of setting up for a first pick Pantheon in this scenario.
See what it is going to be here as the final ban is looking to come through.
It would leave Azir open, though. That's the thing. Are you more bothered about Vikla getting Azir? So they go for the Poppy instead. Bear in mind, Talia is down as well. So this is a difficult decision for BNK FairX. Do you pick Vikla's Azir with no Talia to counteract it? Or do you go for the Pantheon, which is by far the strongest? No, not the Rammus.
I think Rammus is obviously the pick.
Oh, I
don't know whether you run Gwen into the obvious Azir Pantheon, though.
I do not like this. I don't think this is a good call at all. I know Gwen is strong, don't get me wrong, but you're giving over the Azir and the Pantheon. And Lucid loves Pantheon. Even before, it was the top player jungler he was playing all the time. I feel like they've just walked in. Why are you banning 3 junglers to give over Pantheon?
When the play-by-play commentator is already telling you what is going to be picked on 1-2 on the other side, you know you've done an oopsie. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'm kind of bemused, especially because I thought Game 1 draft, BNK FairX handled it pretty well. Now it feels like they've kind of just given over a lot of power. And the Skarner hasn't really been convincing so much recently. A lot of nerfs has really taken down his power. And into a Azir Pantheon, I mean, you can obviously CC the Pantheon quite effectively, but you're not going to have as much early pressure. And Azir, you're not doing anything into. Well, the Rise of Vikla, 100% win rate so far. We'll see if we can continue that. A tall order, I think, so far.
I was going to say, I feel like they're really putting that 100% win rate to the test.
Yeah.
With the first couple of picks here. We've seen the Gwen first pick be very underwhelming, but I did say that about the Nefiri first pick in our first game. Ooh. So maybe I'm just a liar. We'll just have to see whether Clear can change my mind, because his Rumble left us a little bit wanting in game number 1. Didn't quite find the equalizers, didn't quite find the positions on the map where he could actually impact, as the Jax is going to be locked in here. Yeah, that's a bit of a... That's an intense matchup towards that top side of the map, and Shu definitely feeling himself after a great Ambessa performance in game 1.
This was one of the old school counters back when Gwen was initially OP they would often see. I feel like current meta, we'd much more often see a Jace on the 3rd pick here to match into it. So interesting that she was opting into the Jax, which I think it's a good pick, but just not one I think we'd typically see from every LCK team. But I think she was kind of being that player where, when Ambessa priority's fallen off, he's willing to pick it up and get wins with it, when a lot of other players have struggled. Now, bans coming through. Again, taking away that Rakan in this situation. The MF is going to be banned by BNK FairX. Might well just be an Alistar ban on 5 to deny that away from Beryl.
Yeah, could be a Varus look in here as well. As you were talking about the Alistar ban, I don't think that that's going to come in on the DK side. I think an R4 Alistar would be exactly what DK are looking for. And so the Jinx instead, going to be the ban away here against Diablo. Wanting to deny any sort of range. I actually kind of love this, because this team is so short range at the moment on the side of BNK.
Also, you got to remember, he failed to get the Penta on the Ezreal. He did get a Penta on the Jinx,
That's
so respect for the carry potential. We see the Varus ban come through. To be honest, Eamon can definitely play Varus, but I don't feel like it's a pick he's particularly leaned towards heavily. And the Alistar pick on 4 is just, it's the playbook. We've seen so often, the modern drafting in the LCK has been we ban Alistar on blue side, 2nd rotation, because it's picked on 4 so often. And now you're looking at a Xayah, but you don't have the Rakan. I guess maybe like Xayah Rel could come through.
I feel like we see Xayah Nautilus all the time, and it doesn't often fill me with joy.
Yeah.
But we'll see what Kellen does decide to do. Oh god, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
There's that flat feeling that you get in your chest when you see Xayah Nautilus locked in.
Yeah, I think of the engaged supports available, I mentioned Rel, but, I think Nautilus a better matchup into the Alistar, but still not feeling great. Even considering the Zeri angle?
Could go with a whole bunch of different stuff. You're not really putting on a whole lot of pressure with the Xayah.
Yeah, I think...
Is it just Kai'Sa in the end? Is that what we're going to do? No, never mind, Zeri.
I think Kai'Sa would have probably been better in this situation. The reason I'm a bit concerned about the Zeri is you're playing into Nautilus Rise, who are very good at point-and-click CCing the Zeri. So not the easiest Zeri game to play, but I think overall, D+'s comp has a lot of strength. Their mid-jungle phenomenal, their support phenomenal. The Jax matchup I like. It's only the Zeri I'm a bit like, eh. But BNK FairX, again, very much testing that 100% win rate that Vikla has on the Rise, because I think they kind of didn't give themselves some great tools here. The composition, very short-ranged into an Azir Jax, Alistar. Yeah. Hard to play. If you're in range of those champions, you're likely about to get CC'd or take a boatload of damage.
Yeah, this is the problem. The fact that Azir is the champion with almost the most range on the Rift is a scary proposition because Emperor's Divide then becomes so incredibly valuable to just keep things at arm's length. You don't even need to go in for big shuffles, right, to like turn the fight around. You just need to peel for yourself by putting up a big old wall and then auto-attack people down. And so Showmaker's job, I think, is going to be a little bit more comfortable in this one, but I mean, the more we expect things to be good, oftentimes the less good they are on the D+ side of things. You know, it's all about the good old bait and switch. So let's see whether it is going to work out here. So far, Skarner and Gwen have not seen as much success as they had prior, and this is a lot of power on the side of D+ Kia. Can they make it the first 2-0 of the week, or will B&K FureX find a way?
수환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
All right. I love that Showmaker is like the one guy that uses the businessman Azir skin.
Yeah.
I feel like nobody else does it. There's a lot of base skin Azirs, because base skin Azir is pretty good.
It's just so very, you know, there's some skins that like everyone takes it on, like, like for example, the Power Rider Sejuani.
Yep. There's I feel like that is mainly because there's also Project Sejuani that people use a lot, and it's Peanut. Every single game is on Power Rider. Every game.
I think I just see Power, but maybe
you watch a lot of Peanut.
Yeah, I mean I do.
I hope he's not your favorite jungler, and you've been lying to us about this Lucid fandom.
I would never. I'm also, you know, that's the sort of thing Chronicler would do where he'd flip-flop. But Peanut's never gonna get a Penta, so.
That's maybe true. I don't even know whether he hasn't got a Penta already.
I don't think he's going to get one recently because he's been playing a lot more for supportive roles.
He's not going to get one in this game.
Yeah.
I promise you that, because he is not here. And as it turns out, your favorite player, Lucid, is in this game. He's on probably the better champion as well. As top side of the map, I think if we're going to talk about how this game is sort of set to go in this early phase, I think the top jungle is going to be a scary one for B&K to navigate. I think that there is a lot on Clear's shoulders in this game. As we can see, she's pushing towards him. And I think that it could be a little bit of a worrying time. It's so interesting seeing Gwen kind of get pushed out in the early levels when we're so used to her just winning all the time. Not quite anymore as she gets bonked with the lamppost a few times.
Yeah, good amount of nerfs, was weak in the early game, a decent amount. Vikla playing very aggressive here.
Yeah, Showmaker taking a bit of damage, but just going to exit to the side there is Vikla, not taking too much damage from the minions. 4-0 on the rise. And not quite the same win rates, but when you can see Beryl on a big advantageous win percentage, you know you need to feel a little bit worried.
Yeah, I think it's a little concerning that he got access to the Alistar, especially with how Beryl plays support. Yeah. You know, Alistar is that champion where you have the freedom. You know what? His ult just lets you play like you're a top lane Scion with tons of extra stats, and you can just walk in and get away with it. And that's what Beryl does when he's not playing Alistar.
Exactly.
So you've just enabled him in this way. So
basically you're telling him that he can get away with it when normally he would just go for it anyway, even if he couldn't get away with it, but now he does.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit the worry. Vikla playing very aggressively in this lane, as we can see. As Showmaker does soften up the minion wave, we'll be able to deal with it now. Vikla now going to move aside. We'll see whether he goes for a cheetah recall. Looks like instead he's going to try and get some vision on exactly where Lucid is. Should be able to achieve that as well, as we do have Rift Scuttlers coming up. One should be taken by both of the junglers, and no real advantage being picked up on either side. I feel like we saw this a lot in the height of the Zeri meta, which was the Xayah being picked into it as the attempted answer. And didn't work out super well back then, but Zeri was mega overtuned at that time. Hook going to connect here by Kellen. Pulverized, but not exactly the best look here for Beryl, who's taking a lot of damage. And triumphantly roars.
He does like taking damage, you know. This might look like it was a favorable trade for B&K FureX, and it was. But I think Beryl just kind of, you know, sometimes he wants to see if he can take it. Testing his limits.
Well, he did, and he sacrificed a whole bunch of his health bar for it. Does still have one potion remaining, and can triumphantly roar a whole bunch of that health bar back over time. So it isn't exactly end of the world. Right now, BNK with a lot of control here towards his bottom side. Diablo waiting for the next wave. And it looks like a bit of a cheater recall going to come through here from DK instead. See whether it's going to be an early swap or what is actually going to occur. As Clear back into this top lane. It's a decent lead being set up here by Shio. As you can see, doesn't exactly have the health bar control, but Clear is not exactly in the best position outside of the fact that there is a lot of farm to pick up in this wave. It's not going to be his turn, as Widid said earlier on.
But so far, laning a little bit behind in terms of farm, but not too much of an issue. Going okay. I think the side lane, the Jax can be an issue later on, but you know, Gwen in teamfight is just such an absolute demon.
It's true. Jax also can hold his own in a teamfight, but I think not quite as ridiculous as getting a whole bunch of needleworks across 5 people, which we have seen be very, very frightening. I believe yesterday it was Doran that had a really good Gwen game. And all right, so far in this early game, things looking fine. BNK, but I think it's going to be the first fight around the Grubs. I don't think we're going to see a first fight around the Dragon, although that has been up for 30 seconds thus far. Both teams have it warded. It looks like we're not heading in that direction.
There's no massive prio advantages bot lane that I think really led to the early Dragon last time, and also Raptor on the Skarner is not the fastest at taking a Dragon down, so...
Oh, that's a good point.
Don't think it really frees you up to just start it off.
Raptor driving in here, and Showmaker driving out.
Wow, Azir is so strong. The fact you can just shuffle away, no wonder these teams prioritize him.
Yeah, if only there was a Poppy available or something like that. And there wasn't. That was banned in both games, in fact. First round of bans this time around. DK getting rid of it, as Lucid is going to find Kellen, who doesn't have his anchor available. Does have Aftershock, though.
Whoa!
Does get the anchor back. I'm not sure about that one. Beryl says, that's your sin. Not going to be too much of a worry as now Diablo gets in there as Vikla turns up. First blood is going to be collected. Maybe that 100% win rate is going to work out as he's starting this game with a double kill.
Great Realm Orb coming through. I didn't catch it initially that they were going for it. When Kellen went in, I was very caught off guard, and I think D+ was too.
Absolutely.
In that situation, she was getting some good damage on a clear.
Yeah, the Empower coming on through there as the Grandmaster's Might comes down. Leap Strike coming through. It's the flash. Does get the flash out from Clear as well. So some top lane dominance. Kellen finding yet another one as Showmaker with the Emperor's Divide lands only onto Vikla, as they will be able to put him down. Lucid getting a bunch of his health back as finally Diablo's going to turn up. But Aiming is looking for a certification, and Raptor is the one that has the documents. There it is. The double immediately in response for Aiming. And what was looking good for BNK immediately looks not as good.
I think when it's this early in the game, this is one of those situations where you need a very clear plan of what you're going to do at the end of this play. So Kellen, he hits the terrain, which is important because it shortens the cooldown quite significantly. It's halved. And so he can go again for this play. D+ didn't expect it. Why would you? They weren't clocking the Realm Orb immediately coming in, which is why they were kind of caught off guard. They commit on the Aiming, they get Barrel as well. But the ensuing play, Raptor has flash and can get over the wall. I think the problem here is Vikla and Kellen are too focused on like fighting and denying Lucid. You should be posturing in a way where you just leave.
Yeah.
You know, I think Vikla should have been already, you know, towards where Diablo is now, so you can just walk out. Kellen should have been in a position to potentially flash over the wall afterwards, or even just die himself. It's just support. But giving away 3 kills there, and especially the fact that Aiming got 2, that is not a good start for BNK FearX.
Certainly is not, especially when it's also like 100% kill contribution here for Lucid as well. Like the Pantheon, we know snowballs pretty effectively. And the way to keep him down is often to deny any action early in the game. If you're trading a bunch of kills back and forth, the value of the Pantheon seems to go up. As Raptor here with some control around the Grubs, he's going to start them up here. Beryl is going to move in, gets information that these are being taken, but you can see Lucid nowhere in sight. Does have Grand Starfall if they do want to go for a denial on some of these. But it looks like he is just going to focus on his jungle, and they managed to win without any Grubs last time. Maybe that's going to be the opportunity this time as well. As in the meantime, we can see there is a Jax in the bottom lane just pelting a turret with a lamppost.
Yeah, he does pretty good at that.
Yeah, that's
plates picked up. You know, we saw a game where BNK FearX had a really clear control of the early game, and then it started to spiral out of control in the mid game. They don't have that same level of control in this one. You know, the objective control is going in their favor, sure, but course, Vikla has Realm Warp here, by the way.
Yeah, Hook going to come on through as Beryl finding a Pulverize, but maybe a little bit too early as he does send Raptor back. Does get stunned up, but aiming underneath his turret, he will survive, and Beryl not quite as lucky.
Yeah, I think aiming for a moment there was like, oh no, what have you done, Beryl? Was healthy enough to get out of that situation. They don't commit the Realm Warp though. Vikla moves back to mid. I think with the Realm Warp coming in, it certainly would have been the death of aiming.
Yep, the trample actually pretty important there. Otherwise, Raptor would have been able to pull aiming out so much further forward. So almost from beyond the grave was Beryl able to help out.
I think especially playing into a Pantheon, you need to be snappy. You know, whenever you're making plays, whenever you're going for things here, like when BNK FearX are pushing forward to the tower, expect a response quickly, so make the play and get out. Here you can see Vikla was looking like he was going to move in, but the call was made. We have Beryl, we don't need it.
Yep.
The knock into picking up aiming, it kind of felt like it just happened to come through, but they weren't really in a position to follow up, didn't have the cooldowns, so they'll take that one kill and be happy with it.
Yep.
And then get out of dodge quick enough.
Now you can see aiming is just picking up minions underneath his turret. Still does have a slight gold advantage, but Diablo picking up the kill, couple of assists. He's got a BF sword as well. That is a lot better than the long one. As, okay, Vikla is just going to Realm Warp his way out. He knows that there is not a lot of CC left, but still the flash forward from Lucid. And yeah, you can Realm Warp out, but you're going to have to go further than that if you want to escape this duo. As DK will be able to lock that one down. And there's the good old Teemo thumbs up. Oh dear. When Showmaker is happily emoting in the mid lane, that's when you know things are going wrong.
Former teammates, though, you know, Callan and Showmaker having a bit of fun.
Yeah, good.
But I think Vikla went for the fast Realm Warp rather than the precise one, because I know they obviously shortened it a good amount, but I definitely a lot more.
Could have gone further than that.
Yeah, definitely not the longest range Realm Warp we've seen, and a bit more distance would have kept him safe. This was just kind of like, okay, I need to get out quickly before the Pantheon stuns me.
Yeah, that was like, yeah.
That wasn't a Realm Warp. That was like
a long flash.
Yeah, that was a block warp at most.
Maybe it was a 2012 flash. Let's call it one of those.
Yeah.
Well, and also it doesn't make the really bright thingy as well. You remember the flash animation?
Yeah.
Or it was like, by the way, I flashed.
I mean, it's called flash for a reason, right?
Yeah, that's true. It doesn't quite flash like that anymore. As man, it used to really hurt your eyes.
Yeah, and I do want to emphasize, you know, if you look in this game, everyone's ascribing to it, but it is flash, not Glash.
Very true.
Yeah.
In fact, there are only flashes. You love to see it.
Yep.
You know
what's interesting is some stats got posted about the rates of like flash versus Glash.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to hold this though because there might be a fight.
It could be. We'll see where the barrel pulls the trigger. We'll see when barrel pulls the trigger is, I guess, what we were talking about. As the Impale brings Lucid in, but he doesn't seem too worried about it. He just smites away the dragon. Double pulverized there from Beryl as they're getting thrown around like ragdolls, but aiming is untouched. Emperor's Divide finds two, and they're pushed into the blender that looks like Zeri. Kellen will be able to find himself a dredge line, but aiming finds a whole bunch of kills. 4-1 and 2 now. 007 is Showmaker, and he even has a suit on. It's fantastic. It's so perfect.
Working out so well. D+ getting a massive fight there. It felt like BNK FearX a little bit disjointed. Not really with the presence of mind to get the right target connection. And you see the ult from Raptor comes on a Lucid, but no follow-up really comes through, and it's just a little scattered. So we'll see in this situation. Ult comes through on a Lucid. Diablo orders him. Doesn't end up connecting the E. A little bit of miscommunication maybe. Lucid gets a smite. And then what happens after? You know, immediately the Rise is focused down. There's no more gas in the tank.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's like they were all waiting for the cooldowns to be used up, and then as soon as aiming presses his ult button and says it's go time, Pulverize comes through, Emperor's Divide comes through, everyone just activates. And Showmaker finding a brilliant angle here, as we can see, picks up both. And this is a much better Azir performance from Showmaker here today in this game number 2 than what we've seen in prior matches this season.
I feel like this is one of these situations where BNK FearX kind of reeling a little bit of the previous game still and not being able to play their best. It feels like they've kind of dropped the ball a good amount here, but D+ definitely riding that high. The perfect amount of confidence I feel they've got here. One thing I do want to say, my point I was making earlier about the Lash versus Flash. So they actually looked at different regions and compared like the rate between different regions. And you know, Korea?
Oh, well, we're just going to have to hold that thought momentarily as There's a Realm Warp coming in as well. Lucid is very, very dead. The cavalry will arrive, and the rest of DK not quite able to rotate over fast enough, as you were saying.
What I was saying is Korea has the highest rate of flashes compared to Delashes of any region. And you know what I think might be a factor in that?
What's that? Faker uses flash?
Faker uses flash.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So I think it's pretty valid.
I think that makes sense. And also there's, you know, something to be said for this being the region that wins the most worlds.
Yeah,
right?
so...
And where mostly flashes.
I don't want to judge people too harshly, but if you're a Delasher, you know, maybe that's something to think about.
Yeah, maybe just reconsider it. I think it's totally fine. It's never too late to change. As Rumwar brings Vickler in, he's going to help out in taking this kill, but Diablo picking it up gives him a bunch of extra money. That is definitely going to be important. And we'll just have to see. Vickler, it feels like a long time ago that he was picking up that double kill in the bottom lane to get off to such a good start. It's now looking like a very difficult game here, as we're moving towards about a 3,000 gold lead 15 minutes into this game. I think it is a Chemtech soul, by the way, Ox, and I feel like...
I was trying to get the flash and flash point.
Yeah, you were really distracted by that.
Sorry, I was so focused on that.
That's okay.
My bad.
At least we get double tech souls in this series, as Beryl is going to get hooked, and then it's a bit of an and what situation here, as maybe he's going to have to get out of the way. He does not. As, in fact, Aiming getting engaged on. He skates over the wall. Beryl with the unbreakable will. Maybe it should be a bit breakable. Never mind. Nope, he's just now fighting Raptor, as this cow is unkillable. It's a double kill in for Lucid. Vickler is now fighting against the Pantheon. Maybe he likes those odds. Never mind. He's going to be shown the big old shield. It's a triple that comes on through, and that is going to be the Rift Herald and possibly more here, as Aiming getting to work on the mid-outer turret.
It's always a bait with Beryl. I mean, it isn't always a bait because sometimes it's not, but
sometimes it's a bait with Beryl, and when it is, you feel real bad.
Oh man, they're like, hey, we can get this pick on a Beryl. He's not even ulting. What is he doing? He's just saving it. You know, the locket ult, and then look at Diablo. He's like, I can finish him off. You know, gets the blade caller, the heal comes through. Oh no.
Oh, Shiu? Wait. Will he find it here? As Aiming dashes over the wall. Clear knows that he has to try and take Shiu with him, and he's not going to be able to do so. Turret going to get tanked, and that denies the assist or kill from Aiming, and that is definitely good news. So Clear making the best out of a bad situation, but it's still, ladies and gentlemen, a bad situation.
Yeah, that kill given over to the Jack. You can see already Shiu doing pretty well in the 1v1. It was a little bit close, but we're now at a 6,000 gold lead.
Yeah, this game really went out of control very, very quickly.
You know what? The 3-game curse might have been broken this week.
Yeah, I'm a little bit sad, because I thought maybe we could go for another 6-gamer. It was 2 in a row, and we haven't had an entire week of 6-game series before. Could have created some history, and BNK going to have to go for a crazy comeback if they're going to make it work, and oh god, it's not looking like it's starting here, as Lucid will dive on top of Diablo. Nowhere for him to go. Didn't have the Featherstorm, didn't have a hope. And now Aiming, looking to try and get on in here, as Raptor able to flash himself out, but if you're just getting away from the corpse of your AD carry, you know things are not looking good.
Guys, Lucid is 7-1.
Huh.
My favorite player, Lucid, is 7-1.
He's going so well. It's like it must be your birthday or something. As in they go, Pulverize going to connect. It's a double knock-up as Aiming is going ballistic. Clear gonna have to try and dash away. Does have some needlework, but Aiming is now driving a Rift Herald. He's spinning around in circles. Oh, that was a bit cute, but he crashes into the wall, so never mind. Do not let the AD carries drive.
It's funny that you mention it. I mentioned birthdays.
Yeah.
It is actually the birthday of someone very important today.
Okay.
It is actually Bull's birthday.
You're going to do that. You're going to do that. Well,
yeah.
Happy birthday, Bull. I hope you guys have a good performance in Challenger. As DK will be taking the second dragon.
Any other notable birthdays? In fact, if you know of any notable birthdays, you should definitely tweet at us.
Yeah, definitely post it in chat if you know whether there's somebody else's birthday here today.
And maybe someone, okay, I'll keep it, because obviously there's a lot of people in the world, a lot of people have birthdays, but LCK, at least LCK adjacent, it may be someone's birthday.
You're really narrowing it down. It's not like there's often birthdays.
Well, I narrowed it down from everyone in the world to LCK adjacent. That's a big narrow down.
Yeah, that's true. Do they have to be adjacent, or can they be in the LCK?
They can be in the LCK.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I have an idea, but let's have a look at this replay first, as Diablo, he tries to get out. He only has barrier, though. No Featherstorm, no flash, no chance.
Yeah, it's just looking really rough. Kind of circling the drain moment in this situation. Raptor's trying his best to keep people CC'd, but it doesn't really matter when they don't die. And Aiming on Zeri, fed Zeri as well. Just kind of cleaning up in some of these fights.
Yep. It's looking pretty DK here today. And thank you all for the happy birthday wishes in the chat. Couldn't fool them, Orcs. You couldn't fool them. As Hook going to connect here as Emperor's Divide is going to get Showmaker to safety. And this is what we were talking about earlier on, but it's looking like it doesn't actually even matter. The fact that Showmaker can just keep them at arm's length with the Emperor's Divide. Kellen goes in to die, and he is going to get his wish.
I think it's a little bit perfect. The Barrel's having a pretty great series today on your birthday, you know.
I didn't want to draw attention to it because I thought maybe people will join the dots. But my birthday does have good things for Beryl, who is my favorite player. You guys can have your Lucid. You can fight over him. I want my Beryl.
You know what?
I know where true
I'm not as much of a gatekeeper as Mao is, so I'm fine for him to also be a Lucid.
Wow, it's not even strays anymore. He's catching everything. He's like a magnet.
He's very elusive, always talking about his like 100-year, I don't know, video games, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
He's like, I discovered
He'll
this
probably
game.
make another tweet, you know, admitting that, you know, this is getting too much.
He said, you know, I'm the one who discovered this game. I worked hard to find this game.
He did.
I'm not just going to let anyone else play it.
That's where he draws the line, though. If you start talking ill of some of the games that he has quite enjoyed,
oh man,
that's when, like, see how, like, normally he's very, very good, and everything's just fine. And you can say all you want about Lucid fandom and stuff like that, but if you say things about some games, it can be a problem.
They have 47 petals.
That's a lot of petals.
That's the most, I swear that's the most I've seen in an LCK game. You know what? Some of the teams, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be critical. Some of the teams, I will see them walk by the petals.
Which teams? I want to compare it.
I saw Ruler do it.
Oh my goodness.
I saw him walk by a petal. I'm sorry to call out a player like this, but I saw him do it, and it hit me on a deep level. But D+,
you know what? He's going to be here for our next match. We can actually ask him about it.
We will judge him on that. But D+, I think this is a clear sign that all 5 members are locked in on those petals. You know Aiming is the sort of player who will eat up every petal. You know for a fact. Aiming they don't give gold, but they might as well. Free stats, he's on that. But coming in.
Yeah, Aiming is now in a precarious position, but the cavalry is turning up, and so is Lucid, as he will be able to get a Featherstorm here, and Kellen not going to quite find the Pantheon with the anchor. Still, Diablo's able to kite him out, gets the pullback, and now Clear is fighting against Aiming and Beryl. I don't know whether Clear likes those odds, but he gets the flash. And BNK, honestly, this is the best fight they could have hoped for. It's even, at least for now, as Shiu says, no, it's not. Showmaker's going to be able to pick up that kill. Shiu just going to bonk them with his lamposters. Raptor not able to get over the wall, and he's just going to get flung back. He knew that that was going to happen, as he realized also that he had no hope other than to give it a good old crack. As Extended Beam, not quite enough, but Showmaker gets over there. Rune Prison, it's not somewhere that Showmaker cannot escape from.
It felt like in that fight there was a brief, maybe a couple of...
Yeah, didn't it almost look even for a second there?
No, but there was like... there was like a second and a half where you're like, hey, this isn't completely awful, and then it did. Yeah. D+.
It's 5-20.
5-20? You know, we normally just say 5-8.
Sorry.
But that's also not actually the time. It's 25:06, but, you know...
Well, at least you're teaching us all about what time it is in Korea, because this team fight is just showing us that DK has more money than BNK.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Clay nearly gets Aiming, but doesn't.
Yep.
And then it looks like, hey, maybe Calendar Diablo can kill Shiwu, and then Showmaker just zaps him.
Yeah, and Shiu also is
and then
kind of massive
I think
himself.
tried to save Raptor with the Realm Warp, but it wasn't even over the wall. So
it was a
but
cute
the thought counts. That's the Vikla really wants to keep that 100% win rate on Rise. And honestly, I'm ready to believe if he wins this game because
oh yeah, I don't think he's ever going to lose if he manages to win this game.
Yeah, I think there are unprecedented levels of power.
Yep, maybe it's time for another hair bet as Pulverize does come on through. Beryl just going to be corralling them, and Lucid dives into that backline. He knows his target, but Diablo's going to survive for quite some time. Raptor not so lucky as she win that front line. Oh my goodness, that Q almost able to cut down Diablo, but he does stay standing. Over the wall goes Shiu now, and Vikla is not going to be able to offer enough damage back as the Seraphs comes on through. He does go golden to keep himself alive, but he will be going down in the end. And Diablo on the fountain, getting his health back, but he turns back up to everything being on fire as the first inhibitor of the game will go down. 24 minutes Not even with a Baron on the map. And we've got inhibitors hitting the deck.
I think at this point, BNK FX fans probably just scrolling back the VOD a little bit. You know that quadra kill Diablo got in game 1? And they're like, these were better times. These were better times. Right now, it's looking a little rough.
Yeah, Xiu actually just going in to give a thumbs up and then walked out again. That was a bit of a weird scenario. As we're going to check this one out once again. Speaking of establishing dominance, this was Clear trying to establish some form of vision. He's not allowed to do that.
No, he definitely isn't. It's a bold attempt. And D+ kinda, this is just Beryl leading the charge. There's 4 people. He doesn't care. He's gonna knock back the Skarner because why not?
Yep.
His ult runs out. He doesn't change his play at all. He's still running in.
Gets a good old shield there from his locket. And Diablo was very low, but he's not actually able to help.
I just love that they all fly over the wall. Although Lucid didn't. He had flash. He could have come over the wall with them. So, you know, a little bit critical of that. Everyone else was in with a plan, jump over.
Yep. It looked like Lucid instead wanted to go for the objective instead of killing the stragglers.
That's less fun.
I know. It is. It's not quite as good as... Once again, Showmaker's scoreline is looking absurd.
Wait, he hasn't died yet. He hasn't died yet this series.
Yeah, the only one.
Oh, man. You know what? I'm going to be real. This might be a hard POM.
I think it might be, as Xiu is now going to see what he can do with 4 people chasing after him and, exiting. That's the plan. Aiming is looking to take down this tower. Maybe it's a Xiu POM because that was kind of silly. The fact that 4 people just wasted their time and now their base is going to get traded for not even a Jax.
I genuinely think anyone on the top side is a valid POM.
Yep.
I really think they all are. Chronicle's probably going to go for Lucid because, you know, he wants to try and...
Yeah, he's got some ground to cover, I think.
Yeah.
As Raptor is going to pick up Beryl, and Beryl says that he does not care about it. Yeah, not going to be able to impale all of them. And even after that, not a lot of celebration. Lucid just kind of scratching his head, wondering what they're going to take next. Because they have a 12,000 gold lead. There's Soul Point, but that doesn't really matter. I don't think the game is even going to last another 3.5 minutes if DK have anything to say about it. They're thinking about a Baron. They're on it already. Showmaker and Lucid getting to work there. And
it's tough, actually, because Xiu had those great ults on Ambassador in the last game towards the end.
Yeah, right? I actually feel like there is an argument for Xiu as well.
I think there's an argument for all 3.
Yeah.
And that's no shade to aiming a Beryl.
Oh, I thought Beryl was one of the 3. What are you talking about?
No, I think Showmaker, Lucid, Xiu, I think is right now, for me, they're the front runners. I think Eamon and Beryl have been pretty good.
But think about it, it's all Beryl's shot calling.
Oh, yes. Yes, it's your birthday.
No, you don't have to change your vote. I know you really feel dedicated to Lucid and you need to get that vote in. That's
Maybe
fine.
could convince Smile the lesser Lucid.
Look at Beryl starting this fight. There's no one even to follow up, but he's still there. He's so dedicated to starting the fight. As Kellen's going to go down, and now Beryl's actually just going to murder Diablo. He does Featherstorm, but he comes down into a furnace. And he will be taken out. That is going to be a triple here for Aiming, who wants to get his own pentakill. Let's see whether he can get it as Showmaker serves Raptor up on a silver platter. There's the quadra kill, and Vikla is like, my 100% win rate, you are not getting a penta.
He bought his onions when he bought his onions.
Oh no, is he going to go golden? The answer is no, and it's a pentakill once again. First it's Lucid, then it's Aiming, and they'll win the series.
You know, respect to Vikla, because he could have just ran to the back end of the fountain.
Oh yeah.
He didn't do that. The opportunity was there.
I wonder whether Aiming is actually going to say thank you as he walks past. We're not going to see. It's going to be Kellen on the camera. As, we didn't get it. I don't know. It's a big grin on Aiming's face. Maybe Vikla had said, yes, it's okay. But we shall see.
What a day for D+ fans, you know.
It's incredible.
Everything, I'm going to be real, everything was looking a little bit gloomy, you know, earlier in the season. And today we had, you know, Beryl being a bit of a nutcase, as we love to see. Yep. Aiming gets a penta, Lucid gets a penta, Showmaker 0 deaths, Xiu picking Ambessa and Jackson having a great time.
Oh, that's a bit cute.
Oh, that's a front runner.
Did you feel your heart melt there a little bit, Ox?
That's a front runner, I'm not even going to lie.
Oh man, maybe, is your POM already in?
I already put my POM, but that's a front runner for the celebrations.
It's another soccer one, maybe?
That's Aura.
That's Aura.
One? You look at the head shape.
Egon can tell us whether that one's right. I'm not willing to say that I don't know.
Egon is our resident sports ball expert.
Yeah, he's the guy that understands stuff when you're outside, and I find that very strange.
Yeah, I think a bit of a sad one for BNK FX. that first game was in a very winnable position. It feels like the second one, they kind of just lost all the wind of their sails. But I think it's showing an issue with this team is the shot calling, you know? Some of these decisions being made, especially going up against a veteran shot caller like Beryl, you can see them get exposed for it. The individual play is there. Yes, there are mistakes, but like Diablo had a fantastic game and in the first one, and there was moments where BNK VFX as a team were performing well, but ultimately it just wasn't quite enough. I don't speak Korean, I don't read Korean, but I know exactly what that poster said.
It was a bit heart-ratey. As we're going to have a look here, it looked real rough at the very beginning. And then it looked even rougher, but on the other side for the rest of the game.
You know, this one, I think, just not the right decision of how to handle the dragon. It definitely should have been a get the dragon, get out, instead of get the dragon and see if we can fight. Aim and picking up these early kills as well. It's just Zeri things, you know. And then they obviously did manage to pick up Beryl here, but Beryl, he relishes deaths, you know.
He does. And every single fight kind of went like this. You know, it was good timing from DK, but the more money they got, the easier it was, the more lenient said timings were, because it was just so difficult. Beryl just followed the carries around and then just set them up for either Showmaker or aiming to take them down. You saw here, I don't think, like, even if Beryl had have died in this moment, it would have been actually still a great fight for DK, but he didn't. He had the audacity to survive.
Especially, he was so low HP multiple times. He's just vibing.
Yeah.
He's just having a great time. The thing is, he just lives life on the edge because he doesn't really care if he dies there. But then he just has, as you said, the audacity to live on top of that. And here, gets a little bit scrappy towards the end, but the damage is just so insane. We see Diablo knocked in, aiming slides in to finish him off. And then, unfortunately, Clear not able to do anything, even with the flash.
They're already calling for Pentas, and Showmaker, he was actually one of them calling for it. He's like, all right, I'll pick you up this one. Yep, he's delivering them one after the other. Yep, Beryl, yeah, he's like, do it, do it, do it. And there they go. Back-to-back Pentas, 100% Penta.
Yeah.
In these games. Absolutely incredible stuff. Showmaker did a lot of damage, and Vikla, unfortunately, suffered his first loss on the rise. Hard to stay undefeated for that long in the LCK. Not many players with undefeated champions, only a short list of those. And when you get to larger sample sizes, it does become so much different, so difficult to do that. As Showmaker picks up the POM, undying today. 10, 0, and 28 is 27. Not too bad. Not too bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, kind of crazy, especially the RE game, considering it nearly was that pentakill for Diablo. Managed to survive there, but having a lot of clutch plays coming out, a lot of setup for the team. Wasn't the one who got the pentas. Nope. Was really setting up his teammates for success. And yeah, definitely the first game was a bit more hard fought, but a needed convincing win, I think, for this D+ lineup.
Yep, and Beryl is going to have an interview on the space as well, so I'm going to be rushing over to that one. Cannot miss out on it.
This isn't, by the way, I'm just going to say, we obviously appreciate the fans, but this is for you.
Thank you so much, Ox. And now it is time for the interview, so let's head to some translation.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Dear for the POM interview translation, joined by Showmaker on the side of D+ Kia. Last match, you broke your loss streak, and today, with your victory, you're back on track with that winning streak. How do you feel? You know, we were able to end our losing streak last match, and just being able to keep our winning streak going makes me so happy. And in game 1, the enemy took Nico and Talia, giving D+ Kia some trouble. So, what was the plan to deal with them in game? I think you just had to pinpoint that Ari was the only one that could make some plays. So I think I really tried focusing on hitting my charms the entire game. And in game 2, you made an amazing highlight play with Azir, so let's take a look at the replay. The super toss in front of the Infernal Drake. You look so composed. So how did you find this angle? You know, the enemy had a lot of wombo combo CCs. And because my teammates were able to exhaust them of those kind of CC skills, it was just really easy for me to just go in and engage. I honestly went in pretty late, but because the enemy didn't really have a lot of skills to use on me, it was pretty comfortable. And with Azir becoming a high prio pick, you know, you must have had to consider playing Azir a lot, so what was the practice process like? I feel like during my professional career, Azir has always been meta, and it's really never really not been in meta, so I had to always practice and be ready to pull him out, so I was pretty confident in playing him. And in today's game 1, Lucid got a pentakill and Aiming got a pentakill again in game 2, so 2 pentakills in a series. How do you think this is possible? No, in your professional career, getting a pentakill even once is such a hard task, but we got 2 in a series, which is quite amazing, and it just felt like I got the pentakill, and that's how happy I was for my teammates today. So how is your teamwork just so good? Is there any secret? You know, during the long series and chain of losing streak, I think we just had a lot of feedback and review within our team, and we just tried to maintain our mental fortitude. And your next opponent is OK Savings Bank Brion, and you have to watch out for their Kingslayer instinct. So what is your mindset? No, we're on a winning streak, so we will make sure that we are well prepared to keep our win streak going. And you know, despite the rain today in Seoul, there are a lot of fans visiting and cheering for you on site. So would you like to say anything to the fans? You know, when I woke up today, it felt just so sticky and suffocating. It was so humid, and it just, you know, I think the weather is just so easy to make you feel bad, but I'm so glad and so happy and so grateful that our fans are always down to support us. And that's the end of the interview with Showmaker, and back to the space. Thank you.